All right. Yeah, the much anticipated time. Thank you all for joining this meeting, the webinar. Thanks for all of our friends that have joined all across the world. Few people here from the United Kingdom, quite a number of people from Africa. Thank you for joining this webinar. So I just want to use this opportunity to say welcome to Smart Learning. So Smart Learning is a cybersecurity, or if you call it IT security training organization. So we've been doing the business of training people and helping people to get jobs in the last couple of years. And what we do is we provide an end-to-end training. When I say end-to-end, it just means end-to-end, and that was what it means is, we train you up, we put you in a project-based environment where you can, get your hands dirty further. Then we also help you with all sorts as well, which include, CV review, mentoring, on-the-job support, continuous learning. So our webinar is a type of continuous learning for most of our students, and for even the prospective student as well, the new one. So we provide end-to-end. We do interview preps as well. And the whole idea is, we want to train you, get you equipped, for the job that is out there for you. And for us, it's until you get a job. So we don't get tired, until you have that job breakthrough. So that is just a very, very high level what we do in Smart Learning. And the practical the takeaway for you is we do not just stop, or our engagement with you does not just end with just the training. It goes beyond that. In fact, we're very much involved even in your career progression as well. We will talk to you, recommend courses for you, and how you can have that, anticipated breakthroughs, that you desire for yourself in the industry. So we provide all of that. We offer various, courses that you can think of, from project management to business analysis, to the very basic of related course in cybersecurity, like cybersecurity fundamentals, to the more very much advanced level, to the point that you can write any industrial certification that you have for yourself. I'll be bringing much more or more information for you towards the end of this webinar. I'm glad you're here today. And this webinar today is just pretty much, I don't know if I've introduced myself. My name is Wale Omolere. For some of you, you may have met me, maybe face to face. Some of you may have heard my voice. I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of people over the phone, but we haven't had that opportunity. We haven't had the opportunity as well, to meet face to face. But I'm hoping that after the COVID-19, which is going to pass anytime soon, we all have that opportunity to, see each other again face to face. So I am the founder and the CEO of Smart Learning. So Smart Learning is just, one arm of our business. We operate another consulting arm of the business that is called Smart Safe. So if anybody's interested in what we do, please by all means, reach out to us. But our business is solely around cybersecurity. That is what we do. It's all revolve around, cybersecurity, and training is just one arm of that business. So the consulting arm, we do a whole lot around cloud service. We provide cybersecurity consulting services. We're quite heavy, around Internet of Things. And lastly, we do a whole lot around governance, risk, and compliance as well. All right. So if you're interested in any of the consulting services, by all means, give us a shout. I will be more than happy to help you or to talk to you. But today, it's all about the webinar that we all, are here for. We're going to be talking to you today about ISO 27001 certification process. Some of you, this is not the first time that you'll be on our platform. As a matter of fact, the last time we had a free training was about a month ago, where we spent 3 quality days teaching you about ISO 27001 foundation. And you would agree with me, for many people that came to that course, you were super blessed. You left better than the way you came. You learned something new, which you can, easily, take away and use them at your workplace. All right. And again, I suspect that, for some of you that came the last time, the reason why you're here again is because you enjoyed it the first time. So again, thank you for coming back. And again, I put my hand to my chest to say, this webinar is also going to be great as well. I believe, there's a whole lot, that you can learn and you can take away from here. All right. And just to run through what we're going to be touching on today is going to be around internal audit, external audit, and the opportunities that lies, that are ahead, just for you. There's so much around, what's happening in, now around COVID-19 and the fact that, everything is locked down. But I'm glad that you're not locked down. Your career is not locked down as well. All right. But again, listen, you have to equip yourself, with the right knowledge. You have to equip yourself, upskill, if I can put it that way, so that, you can, when the lockdown is finally over, which I know it will be, then you can go out there, and apply for the job that you desire, and, earn, the money that you also desire as well. And we are here to help you as it were, equip you with the right knowledge, so that, you can exchange that, for good money in the industry. All right. So we're going to be walking you through all of that, especially the opportunities that lie ahead. Then lastly, the bit that I'm going to be talking to you about, I have few announcements, so today it's a free webinar, but listen, I have a whole lot as well. After this training, after this webinar, we also have another free training, a 2 to 3 days training that's already packaged, is already planned anyway, and that's going to happen, sometimes, 2 weeks from now. I'm letting the cat out of the bag now because I'm really excited about, what we're going to be sharing with you next. Okay, still very much around the ISO family, but something that you will be interested in. But listen, I have to, try and caution myself now so that I don't let the cat out of the bag. I'm going to be sharing that with you later on, just about when, the presenter finished the presentation, and I'm going to be walking you through, what that is. So I want you to stay tuned and make sure that, you're here up until the, when we say goodbye, so that, you have all the information that you require to join the next, our free training that is coming. That free training, as well as we have always done, is going to come with certificate of participation. All right. Again, I'm letting the cat out. I'm just really excited, but I need to share more information with you towards the end. All right. So without further ado, I quickly want to introduce to you my presenter today, the person that's going to be talking about, walking us through this webinar. All right. So our name is a she. All right, not a he. Now, so our name is Ngozi. I call her Obi. She has a background in computer science and information systems. All right. And, she's so lucky or blessed, to be working for one of the largest, certification awarding body. All right. So the good news is this individual will not just only be talking to us or teaching us, this ISO, certification process from theoretical knowledge, not what they have, read from a book, but what their hands have handled. All right. What they have done themselves, because they have the opportunity to work for, or they have had the opportunity, to work for this, one of the largest certification awarding bodies around here in the UK. All right. And they've also had the opportunity as well, to audit, both internal and external, so many organizations, both public and also in the private sector as well. So I would consider this individual as a bag of experience, practical and hands-on experience. I'm not saying theoretical experience now, but practical experience, which I think this is what everyone is craving for. You could go to the internet. The internet is just rich, with loads of resources, but too many times, you would hardly find anything on the internet, that communicate what people have actually done, in their day-to-day, our work or experience. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing for you today on this webinar, because it's just going to be all about practicals, what you can take away. This individual is also, I'm talking about Ngozi now, as she's also certified. She's also a certified ISO 27001, the lead implementer, and also a lead auditor as well. So to back up, our work experience, you also have, industrial certification as well. And she like I said, she has a BSc in information systems and computing. All right, and I'm so excited today to have Ngozi Obiageli, join us today, as she would be taking us through this journey, sharing with us our experience, particularly around internal and also external audit as well. So thank you, Ngozi, for joining us today. So it's a pleasure to have you. And yeah, if you're ready, we're ready to listen and also to learn from you. All right.
Thank you so much, Wale. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And I believe Tunde and my other colleagues there can also hear you as well. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much, Wale, for the introduction, and thanks to everyone on the call this evening. Okay, so I'll just go straight into it. Sorry. Sorry, 1 second.
Okay, yeah, take your time. Take your time. Yeah, that's it. But you're too fast now.
That's it. Okay.
So if you go back a little bit. Yeah, what you did earlier on, maybe the arrow on the computer. Yeah. Yeah. So whichever one, if you feel comfortable using your cursor, or if it's the arrow on your keyboard, whatever works for you. I would use the arrow on my keyboard, but again, whatever works for you, just go for it. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Hold on. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Apologies for that, everyone. So I'll go into it. Thank you. Although the session today is principally on internal audit, like Wale mentioned earlier, I would like to briefly touch on ISO 27001, Information Security Management System, in the first few slides. This will serve as a foundation on what we'll be talking about today, that's internal audit. So please bear with me. But one thing to note is, whilst I was reviewing jobs in the market, I found out that most of the jobs are focused on information security. So maybe information security manager role or information security analyst, covering governance, risk, and compliance. However, internal audit forms part of the responsibilities, especially if the organization is certified to ISO 27001. We'll talk about the certification process later on. Now, on this slide here, you see the topic there. The heading is Purpose and Benefit of ISMS. The ISMS there means Information Security Management System. Just a brief definition of what a management system is. A management system is the way in which an organization manages interrelated parts of its objectives. So for example, an organization, say like Smart Learning, would have policies, they would have processes, they would have procedures that they apply, and all of these are all interrelated. So if we based on that definition of what a management system is, so you have management systems, for example, you have quality management system, you have information security management system, you have environmental management system, you have health and safety management system. And of course, the standards are being approved and generated by a body called ISO, which stands for International Organization for Standardization. They've released about more than 80 standards, and each of those standards all represent different aspects of management system. Now, an information security management system is a framework of policies and procedures that include legal, physical, technical controls involved in overall organization's information risk management processes. Now, ISMS, I'll be using ISMS, please. So just remember, it's Information Security Management System. ISMS in itself is a risk-based approach. Remember, it's all about protecting information. It's all about the security of information, especially in the kind of world that we live in today. As well as it's also a top management approach. It's a top-down approach. Top management must be involved in the establishment, implementation of a information security management system. Now, one of the purposes of an ISMS, as is stated there, is to preserve CIA. CIA there is confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. The confidentiality there is ensuring that information is accessible to those authorized to access it on a need-to-know basis. Integrity there is that information is accurate and complete and not modified, whilst availability is that information is accessible to authorized users when required. Especially now, if with everyone working from home, people have no, so if the company does not make that information available to them, then of course they would not be able to be effective and efficient on their day-to-day responsibilities. Again, it's all by application of a risk management process. Now, a risk management process there just refers to identification of threat, impact analysis, risk assessment, treatment of risk, and ongoing monitoring of the result. Another purpose of establishing an ISMS is to assess organization security. Internally, that's where the internal audit comes in. So as an internal auditor, you would be conducting internal audits just to understand all of your information security requirements and that you're meeting requirement. Then externally, you would have clients or customers that would conduct audit on your organization. The reason why they're doing that is before they share any information with you, with the class as confidential or sensitive, they want to understand the posture of the organization's security. And the key benefit of an ISMS is to provide confidence to interested parties. Interested parties there could be shareholders, your customers, clients, even staff as well. They are all interested parties. And the main goal is that you've regarded CIA, that's the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information, that all the sensitive or personal information shared with you is being managed effectively and accordingly. Can everyone still hear me? Just checking.
Yes,
Wale?
please.
Yeah?
Very well.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Thank you, thank you. Now, there are some core standards that are very necessary to have knowledge of when we're talking about auditing as a whole. The first one there, and which is the main standard for auditing, is 19,011. Now we have the version 2018. This is the third edition. 19,011 is a guideline for auditing management systems. It provides guidelines on principles of auditing, how to create an audit program, how to conduct a management system audit. Remember, I talked about management system earlier on, as well as competence of individuals involved in the audit process. This 19,011 is applicable to all organizations, regardless of the size, be it a small, medium size, or a large organization. So if you decide that internal auditing or external auditing is your next line of action as a career, you must know everything on 19,011/2018. When we go into the slides concerning internal audit, I've pulled out some aspect of it, but not everything. So I would encourage everyone on the call to pick up a copy. Wale would give you more information towards the end. I'll go diagonally just to build a relationship. So the next one here, which is this one, is ISO 27007/2020. Initially, the last update was, this is a current update, but it was initially previously 2017. And you can see the title there is Information Technology Security Techniques, Guidelines for Information Security Management Systems Audit. this is the one that you would use to audit ISMS, the Information Security Management System. It ensures that, so what the standard does, it ensures that the ISMS is audited, you carry out an effective audit, it is robust, it's competent as they are intended to be. The reason why it was revised to 2020 is so that the purpose remains fit, and as well as aligning to 19,011 2018. So this particular standard here would help to audit the management ISMS here, which is, and we're talking about the mandatory clauses, which I'll talk about in a few seconds. Then now, if we go the other way, so 27,001, of course, a lot of people on this call will be familiar with this standard. It is widely known standard, providing requirements on how to manage an ISMS. It's designed to help organizations manage the security of their information. And then you have a lot of organizations use, so most organizations would just go by checklist. So they just have the controls in place. However, they don't go all the way to certification, whereas some other organizations would decide to be certified. And the reason why they're going through certification is to provide assurance to their interested parties. Remember, I talked about interested parties earlier on, that that they are adhering to requirements of information security. Now, 27,002 is a code of practice. So 27,002, it enables organization to implement 27,001 controls. Whilst 27,007 will help with the mandatory clauses, 27,002 will help with the Annex A controls, which are about 114 controls. I'll talk about that later. So 27,002 has 14 control objectives, 35 main security categories, and 114 controls. I'll go into that now. Now, just like I mentioned, 27,001 has two sessions. It has the mandatory session, which is clauses 1 to 10. It's called the high level structure. Now, what the ISO, what they're doing now is trying to align all of their more than 80 standards to follow the same structure, which they have called a high level structure. So each of the clauses 1 to 10 will have the same heading and have the same content, except where there are variations, but again, it would still contain the same thing. So it's just to make that management system, all of them relate to one another, so that for purpose of people that will have more than one management system in their organization, they'll be able to have an effective audit. And then it has the Annex A. The Annex A controls is from 27,002, and that's the 114 controls that I'm talking about earlier. I'm sorry, I don't know if the diagram is clear enough, but this is the content of section 1 of the 27,001, and that is the mandatory clauses 4 to 10. So it runs through, the auditing is always a process-based audit. Now it runs through what we call a PDCA cycle or a Plan, Do, Check Act. Now the Plan, Do, Check Act will run from clauses 4 to 10. What I'll do here is to just pick one from each and give you an example of what I, as an auditor, would be expecting my client to provide me. So anytime you're auditing the clauses of 27,001, they must provide you with a documented information as evidence. So take, for instance, context of organization. If I go for the scope of ISMS, with the scope, I am looking for a scope document that would define boundaries. So some organizations would, and locations, some organizations would have more than 35 locations. I have clients that they have more than 35 locations. However, they decided to only certify maybe 5 of those locations and then extend the scope of certification after successful achievement of their certificate. So in that document, I want to see the boundaries that they have defined, the number of locations in scope, the number of staff in scope. An organization could have 1,000 staff. However, not all the 1,000 would be in scope. So they need to define the number of staff in scope, because all of these would form the complexity of the organization, the business complexity. Again, we'll be focusing on CIA as well. Then department, I want to see which of the departments would be in scope. Some organizations would decide to do a ring fencing. So they could say, okay, we would look at our high risk areas, maybe HR, maybe finance, you know, or areas or processes that always have or come in contact with sensitive information. We will start off with those processes or departments first, and afterwards we would extend to other departments. So they could do a ring fencing or just go for the whole organization. So that's what I would want to see in a scope document. Then for leadership, I'm looking here at policy. With the policy, remember I talked about top management involvement. Because 27001 or ISMS is a top-down approach, top management involvement must be evidenced. And the only way you can evidence is involvement of top management, and that is through a policy. Now, 27001 stipulates the requirements that should be stated in the policy, which is a statement of intent from top management. One of the examples could be the top management is committed to maintain continual improvement of the management system. I'd want to see that. I'd want to see that it's signed by the top management, because that's the way they would, by appending their signature to it, it shows that it's coming from top management. And that policy is distributed or communicated to all of the staff. And you know how it is, when they see that it's coming from the top guy, the boss at the top, everyone will want to adhere and make sure that they adjust accordingly. Now for the third planning area here, I'll be looking for an objective document. So IS objectives and plans to achieve them. I'll be looking for objective information security objectives. These objectives, although it's IS objective, but should align with objective already set by top management. So I'll be looking for the objective, looking for who is responsible to achieve each of those objectives and the plans they have in place for that. Then for support, competence. If I go into an organization, I'm speaking to an information security manager. He's the one that has been tasked with the day-to-day running of the management system. Show me the competence that you have to manage an information security management system. So evidence such as CV, training that have been completed, mentoring. So if there is someone in the organization that has experience in auditing, maybe that person could have trained the IS manager, even though the IS manager has no experience at all in auditing. I'll be looking for all of these evidences. Then operation here, information security risk assessment. With the risk assessment, I'm looking for the risk register. So take is given that they've conducted a risk assessment. However, it's not just, okay, we've conducted a risk assessment. What's the evidence that you have to provide me? Then they'll present a risk register. Of course, the risk register would contain a lot of information. Then performance evaluation. This is where internal audit, so I'm running through the Plan, Do, Check Act. The check is where internal audit falls into. But I'll not talk about internal audit now because I have slides on that, but I'll focus on management review. You can see the name here, management, top management review. Top management must be part of this meeting. It's like a meeting. Frequency depends on the organization. It could be conducted quarterly, it could be annually, it could be monthly, depending on how busy or how large the organization is. So if they're conducting that quarterly, when I go in, say maybe at the end of the year, I want to see maybe 3 management review minutes. It should be minuted. When I'm looking at the minute, the content of the management review minute should form all of these clauses 4 to 10. The standard also describes and the different requirements that must be completed or detailed in the management review minutes. So I'll be looking at that, as well as looking at the attendees. So for the attendees, I'm curious, I want to know, was the CISO there, or is it the CEO? Who were the people that attended this meeting? Because that's the only way I would know that they are involved with the day-to-day running of the management system or briefed. They would also be KPIs that will be reported, so monitoring, measurements, analysis, and evaluation, and audit reports as well will be fed back to the management team when they have a management review meeting. Then finally, non-conformity and corrective action. This is what findings that could have been raised from internal audit. So during internal audit, you could raise findings. So if I come into go into an organization, I'm looking at their audit report and findings have been raised by the internal auditor or the IFMS manager or whoever it is that is saddled with that responsibility. If they've raised findings, I'm looking at the findings and the actions that have been taken to address those findings. So what I want them to present to me is what we call a corrective action plan. That corrective action plan would include a root cause, a correction, and a corrective action. I'll talk more about that later on. Now, this is session 2. Can everyone still hear me? Is everyone still with me?
Yes, fire on. We're here.
Yes. Thank you very much. This is the content of session 2 of the 27,001 to the Annex A controls, and it contains 114 controls. I remember a while back, I had an interview with a logistics company, a huge, big, I think the largest in the UK. And one of the questions they asked me, they're certified to 27,000, so they have the certificate. One of the questions they asked me was, okay, you know we have 27,001 certificate, but which of these controls do you think are applicable to us as an organization, as a business? At that time, I wasn't too familiar with the controls, so I just kept waffling and waffling. I could see on their faces and their body language that, oh, okay, she doesn't know what she's saying. You know, in hindsight, looking back now, I would say all 114 controls. So what I would do here is just to quickly give you an example of what I would check on all of these controls. So A5 here, I would be looking for policies. I would sample policies like maybe backup policy, acceptable use policy, password policy. A6 here, I would look for segregation of duties, so that just to ensure that there is no single point of failure. With human resource security, I'm looking at terms and conditions, background checks. If they conduct background checks, I want to see the report of that background checks. Some of you will be familiar with that. Then asset management, I'm looking at for inventory of assets, ensuring that they've designated assets to the right to a particular owner. Then access control, A9, I'm looking for access control policy. Cryptography, do you have an encryption policy? Physical and environmental, clear desk and clear screen policy. Some companies are very heavy on clear desk and clear screen just because of the kind of information that they handle, and as well as physical access controls. Change management, this is a very big one. Operation security is a very big one because this is like the core IT, has a lot of IT controls, such as change management, backup, control of malware, management of technical vulnerabilities, and a host of them. Then communication security, I was looking for network controls. System A14 here, I'll be looking for software development policy. A15, supplier management policy or supplier relationship policy, just how you manage your suppliers, if you've identified key critical suppliers. A16, incident management, is there an incident management procedure, and does it cover collection of evidence and lessons learned? Because you need to record your lessons learned for every critical incident. Then information security aspect of BCM. So I'm looking for business continuity plan, not just establishing the plan, but testing the plan. A lot of companies prior to COVID, most of them didn't really have a very good business continuity plan to manage pandemic. But a few weeks ago, I reviewed a business continuity plan, and it was just one organization. The business continuity plan was written in May 2018. I was blown away because one of the scenarios that was defined in that plan was pandemic. It was actually called pandemic. And the way that they also defined how they would handle the pandemic is exactly what the UK government proposed or implemented when we went into lockdown. So I was blown away. So not only have they implemented that plan, they also went ahead to test it. So it was a walkthrough for them when pandemic actually happened in 2020. So it was really good seeing that kind of business continuity plan. So I'll be looking for the plan. I'll also be looking for the testing, evidence of the testing of the plan as well. Then finally, compliance. I would want to see that they've identified applicable information security legislations and approaches to meet the requirements of those legislations. Yeah. Okay, so now internal audit. So I hope you've been able to get a brief understanding of information 27001. I cannot really go too much into that. If you want to know more about it, please contact Smart Learning. Okay, I've talked a bit on 19011. I provide guidance on the following areas there on the screen. But in terms of audit program, the audit program should be scaled appropriately. So if, for me, if I give an example myself, when we issue a certificate to an organization, that certificate is issued for 3 years. So after 3 years, if they don't maintain the requirements of the certificate, then we suspend or we cancel the certificate. So when I go into an organization, I've done the audit, what I do is prepare an audit program that runs for 3 years based on sampling of the key risk area. Remember once again that information security management system is a risk-based approach. So I'm hoping that every time I go into the organization, my plan would focus on the risk areas, just to make sure that there are no risks that have been overlooked. Then auditing principles here just talks about principles such as integrity, confidentiality. So when you come in contact, how do you handle the information that is shared with you, and as well as reporting truthfully. So every time you report, put your audit report together, you should report truthfully. Then of course, it gives you guidance on internal and external audit and competence of auditors, and saves organization time, money, and effort. It also provides guidance on how your audit report should have, so the format that your audit report should have. 19011 has all of that. I cannot go too much into that again because of time. Now, I really like this particular diagram, and that's why I just had to append it here. And this is just, so when people hear about audit, they get very, I don't know, the perception that people have when they hear audit, regardless of the kind of audit that they are having. Sometimes people just think, okay, the auditor is here to catch me out. That's why they're here, they're nervous. But the truth is, even I myself, when I go into organizations, I'm nervous because I don't know the kind of personalities or characters that I would come in contact with. I've not been there before. Even if I was there before, you don't want to, I'm nervous, they are nervous, so we're on the same boat. But I always look for a way to kind of break the ice. By breaking the ice, that way it's easier to flow and people can be open and provide you with the evidence that you need, and you can have a seamless and a structured audit. What I've done here is to highlight the keywords. I don't need to read out what the meaning is to you. So systematic there is your audit, ensure that your audit is methodical and logical. So when I'm preparing my audit plan, I prepare it in a logical way. The logical way there is, if I'm going to be auditing HR, all the controls that I want to look at for HR, I'll put all of that together. Not that I have joiners process here, then I have IT, just jumbled all over the place. That's not how you would confuse the auditees. So you want your audit to be systematic, to be logical, to be methodical. Then independent here is talking about you as an auditor. If you are an internal auditor, you cannot audit your own process. That means you're marking yourself, and that doesn't happen. That cannot happen. That would not ensure effectiveness of the process. So somebody else would have to audit your work. So if you have implemented policies or processes in an organization, somebody else would have to do that, whilst you go on to audit other departments where you're independent totally of that process. So for me, when I go into organizations, I'm totally independent of the process, so I can audit any area, I can audit any department. The documented process there is your audit should be completed in accordance with the guidelines of ISO 19011. The evidence there is the evidence that will be provided to you, be it records, statements of fact, or other information relevant to the audit. Then audit criteria is maybe, for example, ISO 27001 or set of policies or procedures as deemed necessary. So I've decided to explain further these three core areas. And as you see here, these three areas, objective, scope, and criteria, they form or represent 60% of your audit activities. If you get it right in these three areas, you have a very free and a very seamless audit. So for example, I go say I'm to audit smart learning. Before I go to smart learning, I have in my head that my objective is to ensure that smart learning is conforming to the requirements of 27001, establish conformity to 27001. Then secondly, that all of the requirements are maintained effectively by the evidences that will be provided to me. And then I'm looking for continual improvement. What's the improvement in their processes? Then the scope there is maybe HR. So my objective is to ensure that HR conforms to the requirements of 27001 based on their policy or procedure that they've established. So I'm looking at processes like joiners, movers, leavers process. So whilst I'm looking at that process, I'm looking for conformity, I'm looking for effectiveness, I'm looking for continual improvement. And then my criteria there is 27001 or the Information Security Management System. So 27001 gives guideline. Remember the 114 controls I went through. So HR is part of the controls. There are a number of controls under HR. I'm looking at what the standard requires, and I'm also looking at what they stated in their policy. So if in the policy, the HR department, if they state in their policy that we don't do background checks, I cannot be asking them for evidence. I can only just say, okay, what do you do apart from background checks? Because their policy doesn't say they do it. Or if the policy says they do background checks and they don't provide me with evidence, then I can raise a finding. I hope I've explained this properly to you. And I would also want you to note that audits are vital parts of the management system approach because they enable organizations to check how far their achievements meet their objectives and show conformity to the standards. Now, this is just the different types of audits. So the internal audit that we're talking about today is a first-party audit, is conducted internally. You have the second-party audit, which is a supplier audit or customer audit. So customers, before they share information with you, remember when we talked about interested parties earlier on, some of them would engage the services of one of the big four companies that they come in and then they audit you. The reason why they're doing that is just to establish your security posture, gather that information, and then go into contract with you. So that's the second party audit. Then the third party audit is independent audit, and that's conducted by a certification body on an organization. The purpose of internal audit. On this one, the main area that I would want to stress is number 5 here. It's not just because an organization just wants to do an internal audit. If the organization is certified, requirement of 27001 clause 9.2 states that there must be an internal audit must be conducted. Not only would you conduct that internal audit, you would also maintain an audit program. So your audit program will form the basis for your internal audit. If your audit program says we will audit quarterly, then your audit, you need to have that audit quarterly and prepare a report to justify that the audit have been completed. And that's where we talk about first party audit. I cannot go into an organization that I would assess to do an internal audit. That way I'm breaching impartiality. So I would always go into organizations that I have no business with at all, so that I can maintain that clause of impartiality. Again, it would give continual improvement to the management system. There is the form of, there's that purpose of awareness. So when you audit organizations, there is that awareness within the business. They begin to find out areas where there are weaknesses. Sometimes when I speak to my clients, and I'm asking them the benefits from having this audit, be it internally or externally. So internal audit will always pick those areas because you know the business more than I do. So with your internal audit, you're able to show the auditees areas where they need to improve. You're not there to crucify them that they're not doing it the right way. You're there to add value to them. And by doing that in a systematic way, remember when we defined what audit is, in a systematic way, you're increasing awareness. They would even come, they'll walk up to you and tell you, okay, I discovered this, I found out about this, I found out about that. What do you think about it? So it creates that awareness. And mind you, internal auditors, I just like to mention here that internal auditors, they always have an advantage because they're exposed to different processes within the organization, thereby understanding how processes interrelate. I've been to an organization and it's they provide software for racing companies. That organization is so large, and I think it's one of the most complicated businesses that I've been to audit. In fact, the truth is, I didn't even understand what they were saying. So I was just speaking to the information security manager because he conducts the internal audit because he's totally independent of the processes. He was more like my guide. I would ask him, okay, please tell me more about this process. Tell me more. He knows everything. And they have more, even the software development they do has different dimensions to it. So I would always say to him, please tell me, what about this process? What kind of software are they developing here? What kind of process are they using here? What kind of language are they using to develop here? So as an internal auditor, you have that advantage. You're exposed to a lot of processes within the organization and you understand how they relate with one another. So other purposes are on the board. Of course, if your organization is certified, you must conduct internal audits. And that's the first party audit that we're talking about. Okay, so now we'll run through the audit process. Please make sure you stay to the end. Wale has something interesting to share with you. He's mentioned that already. With these processes, what I would do is walk you through what my audit process is. That way you'll be able to understand what I'm talking about. But everything based on ISO 19011-2018. The way I would initiate contact with my auditee is sometimes I would email them beforehand. So if I know that I have an audit coming up, say in June, end of June or so, I'll give ample time. So I would contact my auditees, I would send them an email, I would call them over the phone, speak to them, understand what position they're in at the moment, if there are any areas that they would want me to focus on during the audit, just to establish that relationship. That way, I'm able to already break the ice. So when I go into the organization, I'm not having any issues at all. Then preparing for the audit by reviewing documents. Sometimes there would be, so if the organization has not been visited before, there would be basic or a profile about the company. The documents, I would review all of those documents based on the complexity or the risk complexity of the organization. I would then prepare my audit plan. Usually, if your organization have been visited before, the last report would have the next audit plan on there. So based on the last report, I will prepare my audit plan as well. But if they've not been visited before, my audit plan will be formed on the risk approach or whatever risk complexity that has already been identified. And in that audit plan, I would state the processes that I would audit, say maybe HR process, software development, if it's a software company, compliance, IT. It just depends on the area that I would like to focus on based on their complexity again. I would also, in that plan, I would also include the time. I might not know who I will be auditing. Once I send the audit plan to the auditee or the contact person from the organization, they would then confirm the people responsible for those particular processes or the areas. Now, these assign work to auditors and prepare working papers. These two is usually for if you're working for if you're doing external audit. If it's internally, if you have to initiate to contact your auditee, you need to inform them. So, say for instance, you'll be auditing HR. The fact that you work with them in the same office does not mean you should not observe protocol. You need to send an email to them, or maybe walk up to them or call them. But then for evidence purpose and for audit trail, you might want to send them an email. But send them an email, look at the HR process, develop your audit plan, make sure that you inform them, because if they're busy with their BAU, so you need to inform them beforehand. For the assigned work to auditors and audit working papers, this one is usually for external auditing. So for instance, sometimes I could have audit that would run for 8 days. So instead of me just going to the client site every day for 8 days is a bit tiring and very, very exhaustive, I would engage the services of another colleague of mine. So would go there for 4 days. So instead of going there for 8 days, we'll go there for 4 days. I would be the lead auditor. So being the lead auditor, I will assign the plan or areas or processes that my other team member would assess. And that's where they would then prepare the working papers. So this one might not really does not relate to internal audit, except if you work in a very large organization. So if you work in a large organization and you feel that the audit is large for you to handle as an individual, as an internal auditor, then you can assign work to auditors, bearing in mind that they are competent to carry out that audit. Determine the audit sequence. Because you're the owner of the process, you run the show, you determine the audit sequence. They will follow your lead. Even if you have, so sometimes I go for audit and I have consultants that the clients have engaged. Once those consultants are there, so most of them have like years and years and years of experience, but I am the one there to audit. I run the show, I own everything. I determine the audit sequence, I'm in charge. The consultant will have to listen to me. So you determine your audit sequence, make sure that you include your time frame, because once you have a time frame, you're working with a time frame, you'll be able to determine how that audit flows. Then conduct your opening meeting. In the opening meeting, you're introducing yourself, introduce your team members, if there are any team members. So I would introduce myself. If I have a team member, I would introduce my team members. I would run through my objective. I would run through my scope. I would run through my criteria. I will state all of that with the client. I'll present my audit plan to make sure that they are comfortable with the plan and that we don't need to move anything around. Then I would also let them know that if there are any findings during the audit, I will communicate that to them if I spot any findings, so there are no confusion or surprises at the closing meeting. So you need to state all of these during the opening meeting. If you're doing your internal audit, you would also send the plan. Please send the plan so that your auditees would know the areas that you'll be covering, and they can also factor that into their time. When here is saying guides may be assigned, if mostly for external audits, really, if I come into an organization, say smart learning, I don't work there, so I don't know the different departments or areas that I need to go to or who I'm to speak to. So the internal auditor or the ISMS manager would be my guide. They will be the one leading me to the relevant person that I need to speak to. Then, of course, ask the questions, carry out the audit, ask the questions, gather the evidence. Remember when I ran through the Plan, Do, Check, Act, going through the clauses 4 to 10, all those evidences that I gave as example, the scope, provide the evidence for the scope, what's the evidence for competence, depending on the area that you're auditing. If it's HR, can I see a contract? Can I see a background check? Did you conduct an information security training before this person was, while this person was employed? You know, you're running through all of that. You're looking for the evidences and the evidence that we provided to you. And then generate your audit findings. So based on all the evidence, you generate your findings. Make sure you always have a pen to paper. You cannot leave all of those in your head, or you have your laptop with you. Then you present your findings. So once I've finished with my audit, I present my findings to the clients in a closing meeting and distribute the report. So I only distribute the report to the information security manager, and they can then disseminate internally to relevant or appropriate personnel. And the last one there, when it says follow up on actions and corrective actions identified in the audit report. Remember when I talked about corrective actions and non-conformities? So the findings could be non-conformities. I will touch more on non-conformities later on, and corrective actions identified in the audit report. So if this is an initial audit, a certification audit, I would ask the client to send me a corrective action plan. So in that corrective action plan, I'll be looking for the root cause, why that finding was happened in the first place, the correction, what they are doing currently to address the finding, and also the corrective actions, what they plan to do to make sure that that finding is addressed effectively. So these are the three core areas I'll be looking for in the plan. However, internally, as an internal auditor, if you identify any finding, you will be doing the follow-up on the actions. If you've identified finding in the HR process, maybe the joiners process or the leavers process, you need to follow up with the auditee on how they intend to address the findings that you've raised, the root cause, the correction, and the corrective action. And it needs to be documented, because when I come in to review your internal audit report, I will be looking for those evidence on the corrective action against the findings that have been raised. I hope I'm still making sense. Sorry, I can't see you, so I'm just talking and talking. Can everyone still hear me? Are we still together? Have I lost you?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now let's talk about the findings. So every time it is, when we're talking about, remember that it's all about 27001, ISO 27001. And when you are doing management systems audit, you're looking for conformity. Remember I talked about conformity, which would be one of your objectives. Now, conformity is fulfillment of a requirement. So if they conform to the requirement of the standard, that's good. However, when it is non-conformity, they have not fulfilled that requirement. So that non-conformity is classed into a major non-conformity and a minor non-conformity. So major, of course, is a total breakdown of the management system. For the purpose of external audit, I've put some examples on here. So no information security policy. Remember the example that I gave earlier on leadership when I talked about statement of intent, information security policy that top management must put together, establish, and distribute to the staff members. If there is no information security policy, that means there is lack of top management involvement. And remember, I also mentioned earlier that for information security management system, it must be driven by top management. It's a top-down approach. So if there's no information security policy, there's no need for me to waste my time with the audit. I'll just raise a major non-conformity. And once a major non-conformity, you might be wondering how many major non-conformities can I raise, or can the auditor raise before we know we failed the audit? Just one. So if I go in, can I see your information security policy? And they say to me, sorry, we don't have information security policy. Okay, why? If there's no explanation, or if there's no justification for that, then of course I'll be raising it as a major non-conformity. And when a major non-conformity is raised, the client can decide to stop the audit and say, okay, thank you very much. A major is raised, because once major is raised, I cannot recommend them for certification. Then we usually give the client 90 days to come. So within that 90 days, they need to address that major non-conformity, and then we go back to do a reassessment. So within 90 days, we do a follow-up. So if one is raised, that's a major. But what I always say to the client is, listen, there could be other areas where there are weaknesses, maybe more majors or minors. You might just allow me to do my work today and run through the whole process, run through the whole areas that in the plan, so that if I identify more findings, since we're giving you 90 days, already one has been raised, so there is even no need, but just allow the whole process to run through. I'll go through the whole audit plan. If there are more findings, when we come back within that 90 days, we can address all of that and close them effectively. So just one major non-conformity is enough for one to fail a certification process. You can also see another key one here, which is absence of business continuity planning. So if the client has no business continuity plan, then of course it's a major. Right now with the pandemic, a lot of organizations that didn't have well, anyways, I haven't been to any organization that didn't have a business continuity plan, just that some of them didn't mention pandemic, except for one that I reviewed. So if there is no business continuity plan, definitely is a major non-conformity, especially if that organization is in a very highly regulated environment. They must have a business continuity plan, or if it's in a very high risk environment. So it's a total breakdown of the management system. Now, minor non-conformity does not really affect the capability of the management system. However, a number of minor non-conformities, especially from clauses 4 to 10, remember the clauses 4 to 10 in the PDCA cycle, can constitute a major non-conformity. So if there is no risk register, that's a minor. If there is no scope document, that's a minor. If there is no competence record, that's a minor. If there is no corrective action plan, that's a minor. Already I've raised 4. So all of those 4, those are key. If they don't have if they've not conducted a management review meeting, that's a minor. If there is no information security policy, so if I add that to that, that's another minor. So all of that will constitute a major. So I'm just there wasting my time. So I'll just raise a major and leave it for them to address. But then there's some minors here that are just standalone. If there is no clear desk policy, like I mentioned earlier, some companies are really heavy when it comes to clear desk policy, or records or backups not complete on one day. Now, there is another set of findings. Right now, my company, we don't raise observations. Usually we used to raise observations, but some companies still do. And for the purpose of internal audit, you can raise observations, but what we do is to raise opportunity for improvement. It's just for clients to improve in that area. They're just gaps. However, if nothing is done about the opportunity for improvement, or OFIs, as we call them, they could be potential minor non-conformities. So it's not just raising the opportunity. So if I raise an opportunity for improvement in the report, I go back there again, I raise that as an opportunity, I see that nothing has been done about it, they've just ignored what I've said to them, I would escalate it to a minor non-conformity. So in as much as we're saying, okay, don't do anything about it, just look at it, but it could be potential minor non-conformity. So observations can be positive or negative. So you can have a positive observation, you can raise a negative observation. Observation is very good when it comes to internal audit, because that way you are looking for improvement in the areas where the audit in the processes that you're auditing as an internal auditor. But right now, I only raise opportunity for improvement. So it's either a major non-conformity, a minor non-conformity, or an opportunity for improvement. And there's also another very good one, which is conformance and positive audit findings. During my opening meeting, I define all these findings. Some of the clients they're familiar with it, but I always need to restate it in case they've forgotten. But I'm saying to them, listen, the aim of the audit is to make positive recommendation for continued certification to ISO 27001. So I'll be looking out for good practice. The example of the business continuity plan I mentioned earlier from that company that had pandemic, that was very good practice. I really liked it. So I put that in my report as a good practice. The client, they were happy about it. Every time you pick good practice during your closing remarks, even if it's internally, you are saying that to the auditee. Oh, I like this area. I like the way you handled your joiners process. I like the kind of initiative you've taken in your department in software development. You know, you just say that to pat them on the back. So it's not like it's been a waste of time, and you're not just there to only look for areas of weaknesses. You're there to add value. You're there to add value. If you think about adding value, that would really help. So you give the opportunity, by identifying conformances and positive audit findings, you're giving the auditees opportunity for their cooperation and courtesy. Okay, so this one I'll just run through. I'll allow you to read it, and then I'll just flip through. It's just personal characteristics that an auditor should have, be it internally or externally. So being ethical, you just need to be very professional. I put some images there to explain what they really stand for. You need to be you need to be professional. You need to keep findings to yourself, especially when it's internal auditing, because you work in the same organization. So it would look like you're putting down the other person's work, or maybe they're not competent enough. If you identified any finding there, then you have to be really careful about how you address it or speak to people about it. In fact, you shouldn't do anything about it. Remember that one of the principles of auditing is integrity and confidentiality. So information that you come in contact with should be held highly confidential. Okay, we're talking about being assertive here. So you might be wondering, okay, all of these characteristics, what if I'm not somebody that is assertive? You would learn. As you keep doing the audit, you would learn. You'd learn on the job. You might even have this inherent in you, and you might not even know until you go out and try it. That's when you know that, oh, okay, I didn't know that I'm an assertive person. I can push for things. Sometimes when I'm auditing and the clients are saying, oh, I can't find this policy, I can't find this evidence, can I come back to you later? I was like, okay, you know what, maybe we should take a 10 minutes break or 15 minutes break. The reason why I'm doing that is so that they can go and look for the evidence and present that back to me. Because if not, you might forget, truly, just like it says on the diagram. Then communication. With this one, I'll just want you to look at it and just tell me in the chat box what you think is happening here. We'll just do that for like maybe 2 minutes. Yes, is anyone attempting? What do you think is happening? Anybody? Tunde, do you want to help me? Just I'm not going out of the. Hi, Tunde, are you there?
I hope you. I'm here. I'm able to help. What do you? Are you looking? Is it the
Tunde,
question?
Tunde Shogalu, sorry.
No, it's Harry here. I don't think it. I
Oh,
don't.
Lobby, yeah.
Okay. Okay, Harry. Yes. Can you just help me read out like the comments, what people are saying?
Okay. Let me just go to the top. I think it said miscommunication.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody said no proper communication with the same security awareness.
Yes.
Poor communication. They are not on the page, so poor communication as well.
Yeah.
Communication is lacking.
Yeah.
Communication not. Look as if majority are pointing towards miscommunication or lack of communication.
Okay, that's very, very good. Thank you very much. So yes, you're all very correct. It is lack of communication. It's lack of communication. The client is trying to pass a very vital information to the auditor, but the auditor wasn't paying attention, and then he's asking, what did you accomplish this week? So he kind of pushed the client a bit, you know. And if you look at the picture, you would see that this auditor has no pen, no paper, no laptop, nothing. You know, so how would you be able, that's the reason why I mentioned earlier that when you're auditing, you need to go ready. You need to have your pen to paper, because if you don't do that, you might forget. When I'm having my opening meeting, one of the things I say to my clients, I would say to them, please, I know I would love to make eye contact with you when you're speaking to me, but because I need to make objective evidence, I need to take record of the evidence you're providing. I might not be able to keep that eye contact. However, I am listening. The way they know I'm listening is I'm taking note. Once I take my note and then I go back to them, I'm saying, okay, this is what you said earlier. Can you provide, can you expatiate, can you elaborate more on this particular point that you've just made? That way you're engaging them, they're happy, they want to talk more about it, instead of you just going there not prepared. Even internally, when you have your internal audit, you should adopt the same characteristics. You should be a good communicator. You should be a good communicator, and you can learn how to communicate. If you don't know how to, you can learn how to, but I would advise that you learn to listen more. Once you listen, you gather all the information, and then you can ask the right question. Always have your pen to paper. And you can see, so communication and listening, you see the way they go hand in hand. There is communication, but then there is that element of listening as well.
Okay, Obi, since you're just here, there's one question on the chat group which says, how many minor non-conformance are you allowed to have to retain your certification?
I'll come to that, please.
Okay.
Harry, just remind me on that question. I'll come to that when we go to the certification process.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So here we're looking at inquisitive. In that picture there is really funny. Maybe there's a manager asking the guy, how did he go? Says, oh, he went pretty well. The auditor took one look at my files and retired. The auditor was tired. No, as an auditor, you should be very inquisitive. Be inquisitive. If you need to spend time on processes, please do, especially if they're great risk to information security. Spend more time. Don't allow the auditees to push documents at you. When I go into audit, I don't allow the client to select documents. I do the selection myself. I do the sampling myself. Then, of course, competence. You need to be competent. You need to know the 27001 standard very well. Remember the example I gave about when I interviewed with a company and a few years ago, and they were asking me what controls do you think are applicable to us? I was just there waffling and just saying rubbish, truly. But of course, you need to be competent. You need to know the standard very well, because right now a lot of companies, we get a lot of applications daily from companies that want to go through the certification process because their clients are requesting for it. It's just a mark of assurance that you know what you're doing with the information that is being handed to you as an organization. Okay. So again, please stay to the end. Make sure you stay. Wale has something interesting. He's already talked about it, but we'll share more with you at the end. So I'll just talk about external audit. I know somebody asked a question earlier about how many minors. I would answer that shortly. Now we're looking at the certification process. So this is a diagram that kind of explains what the whole certification process is. So certification bodies also have an ISO standard that they follow. So certification bodies here is, so you have PECB here, you have BSI, you have a number of these companies that are certification bodies. So they follow a standard called ISO 17021. It's funny because all of these different, when we're talking about management systems and different processes, ISO has thousands, more than 80 standards, and each of them represents a particular process. So for certification bodies, they follow ISO 17021, and that standard lays out how a certification body should operate in order to provide confidence in the certifications they award. So if you were to go for say organization is about to go for a certification process, make sure that you're looking. So for here in the UK, the certification bodies, they are accredited by UCAS. They are accredited by UCAS. So accreditation authorities here accredit certification bodies. So accreditation bodies, so UCAS accredit certification bodies. So PECB, SGS, BSI, they're all certification bodies that are accountable to UCAS, to accreditation, they also are audited. So UCAS would come to my organization and auditors. So they would sample a number of reports based on all the management systems that we audit and look. So what they're looking for is conformity again to 17,021. However, all these certification bodies here, accreditation authorities, they are all members of International Accreditation Forum. So every country has, or most countries have accreditation authorities. These accreditation authorities also are members of IAF, International Accreditation Forum. Sorry, based on this diagram, you can see all the relationships that are happening in the diagram. Now, I'd like to mention that a certification to 27,001 is not obligatory. Some organizations choose to implement the standard in order to benefit from the best practice it contains, while others might decide to get certified to reassure customers and clients that its recommendations have been followed. So it's not obligatory that an organization goes through certification. But right now, with the trend that I've seen, a lot of clients are pushing their, a lot of customers are pushing their client to be certified. So I would run through the assessment process. So you have the pre-assessment, is a gap analysis of the system. We offer that, but it does not count towards successful certification process. So we don't count the pre-assessment, which is a gap analysis of the information security, the ISMS itself. It doesn't count towards it. The main place, so what most companies would do is they will hire a consultant to help them with the pre-assessment, with the gap analysis. So these guys will go in there. So like Smart Learning, which is a consultancy firm, can be, a company can approach Smart Learning and say, okay, we want to go through the certification process. Would you be able to help us with that? And Smart Learning would gladly go into agreement with the company and then run through a gap analysis first, just to understand where this company is and the help that they would require to have a successful implementation and a successful certification. Now we're talking about stage one. So for the actual certification process, before we issue you a certificate, we'll have a stage one. Stage one is high level assessment. So we're looking at, remember the clauses 4 to 10, all of those areas that I mentioned earlier, clauses 4 to 10. So the stage one is high level for documented. So anywhere where the standard says it must be available as a documented information, that's what we're looking for in stage one. And to understand the whole organization posture, to understand the industry, if there are legal compliance that need to be complied to. So that's what we're establishing, the risk complexity of the organization, and the scope. So that's what stage one is all about. Stage one is that foundation, is a high level. Now, successful, so the question that was asked earlier about successful, how many minor non-conformities do you need to have to maintain your certificate? For stage one, if there are more than 7, 8 minor non-conformities, I personally would not recommend that they proceed to stage two, especially if those findings are from the mandatory clauses, that's clauses 4 to 10. I would not recommend them. So what happens is I would propose what is called an NCR, that's a non-conformity closeout audit, where I would go back to the company, look at those findings, and then review all of the evidences against those findings and close them. At that point, that's when I'll be recommending them to stage two. Stage two is the actual certification, that's the initial certification. That's where we'll review everything, especially all the applicable controls that they have selected from the 114. So that's where we'll do an extensive or in-depth audit of the management system. So with stage one, depending on the number of minor non-conformities that you have. And the reason for that, why I would not want to recommend them, is by stage 2, we're there to focus on some other things, not to, because we can spend like almost 2-3 hours trying to close minor non-conformities, and that way we've not achieved anything. So I'd rather book out a 1 day where I would spend that day going and closing all of those findings. Now with stage 2, like I mentioned earlier, once a major non-conformity is raised, that's it. I cannot recommend you to proceed. We'd have to come back and do a repeat stage 2. But like I mentioned, I would say to the client, please, let me do this audit to the end. I know that you're a bit distraught now because I've raised a major, but let me help you. I'm still adding value here, although I've raised a major, but let's do the audit together. Maybe there are other findings that I would identify, and then I'll put all of that in a report and come back within 90 days to close those findings, and then we can make recommendation for certification. I had a client that he's done stage 1 2 times. He didn't pass the stage 1. Then the 3rd time, they made recommendation for him to proceed to stage 2. I went in there for the stage 2. I thought he was ready. By 10 o'clock, I'd already raised 4 majors. At that point, I'm like, okay, I'm just here. This is like a joke. I had to call my manager that I don't know what to do. And she just said, okay, just continue. Does the client want you to continue? I said, yes, he wants. So we sat together. I went through the whole process with him. And of course, I couldn't make that recommendation for him to proceed to stage 2. Then I booked another stage 2 for him within 90 days, so that we'll come back and close all the major non-conformities and make recommendation for him to proceed for certification. So one thing I'd like to mention is, you've been hearing me, I've been saying recommendation. As an external auditor, because I see the evidence, I can make a recommendation, but I don't have the final say. The people that have the final say are the compliance and risk department, because they would follow the guidelines of 17,021. Then they would say, okay, they've met all the requirements. That's okay. We can now provide them with a certificate. So we do the recommendation, I do the recommendation. Compliance and risk they are the ones that make that final decision on if the certificate will be awarded or issued or not. Now, between stage 1 and stage 2 here, they're usually separated by a minimum of 4 to 12 weeks, depending on the findings, like I mentioned earlier. Some organizations are, if they've engaged the services of a consultant who knows what he's doing, they'll push that, okay, we want a back-to-back. We want to do our stage 1, and then within 4 to 12 weeks, we also want to just follow on immediately and do a stage 2. Whereas some other organizations are like, okay, we've done the stage 1, it's a bit heavy, there's a lot for us to take on because we have our BAU as well. So maybe we'll take another 3 months, I mean, we'll take maybe 4 or 5 months, but it's worth mentioning here that once you've had your stage 1, you are only allowed 6-month interval between your stage 1 and your stage 2 should be 6 months for you to complete your stage 2. So after 6 months, if you've not done your stage 2 between your stage 1, then you would have to do a repeat stage 1. I don't know if that makes sense. Then we have also, if an organization has achieved certification after stage 2, we do what we call a continuing assessment visit or a surveillance visit, which is reviewing the management system, just ensuring that they're still conforming to 27,001. The management system is still effective. That happens 2 years. Remember that when we issue them a certificate, the certificate is issued for 3 years. So that within those 3 years, they will have a continuing assessment visit in the first year. They would have a second one in the second year, and the third year, they would have a reassessment. That reassessment is like a stage 2 assessment. So it's another in-depth review of the management system. At that point, we'll then issue them another certificate, which they would maintain for 3 years. But mind you, the fact that an organization has been issued a certificate does not mean they will have it. So if we go in and we keep raising the same finding, we see that they're not taking us serious, we have the right to withdraw the certificate with enough justification. So we can suspend their certificate, we can withdraw the certificate, we can cancel the certificate. We have the right to do it. We have all the justification. We just need to pull all our evidence together and say to the company, listen, we want to suspend your certificate. And of course, we go in there, there is a process for that as well. Okay, so what I've done is to put a quiz. So it's not that I've been talking. So I want you guys to just try this out and tell me what you think. Give me the answers, the first, second. So let's do the first one. In 2 minutes, if you can just look at that and tell me what the right one is, and we'll walk through that, and then we'll go like that. Harry, are you the one helping me to coordinate this?
Oh, okay. Obi, let Harry coordinate. Let Harry go ahead.
All right. Harry, are you there?
Sorry, I can hear you. I was talking to myself. Sorry. Yes, yeah. I can see. Let me just go up a bit to say yes, it does. Major. Yeah, one says major, which is A.
Yes.
Another person's John said A.
Yes.
A.
Oh, I'm feeling. Yes. Okay.
Oh, look as if everybody is A.
Oh, I love that. So
Yeah.
everyone, yeah, good.
Everybody chose A.
Okay, so you're all correct. It's A, and you can see the reason why. So I'm glad.
Okay, one person chose B and one person chose B. Okay, at least just so.
No, just one person.
No, sorry, that's two. Number two, 2B, two. Sorry, I misread it.
Hey, okay.
So number two, you said is B.
Fair enough.
Number two again, B. Number two. Okay,
this person. Number two now. I was talking about number one first.
Yeah, the person that finished number one and then they started answering number two.
Okay, can you just pause first before we go to number two? Just
okay.
Number one. So for number one, so number one is major, and of course is really spelled out that they've not performed a backup in the last 3 months. And remember their procedure. Remember what I said earlier when you're looking at remember the objective, the scope, and the criteria. Remember when you're looking at the criteria using 27001 and also their policies. So if their policy or their procedure states this, then you're asking them what was the evidence against what you've already stated. So they're going against what they've stated on their policy. So, oh, that's good. I'm clapping for all of you. Then the next one. B.
Okay. Number two, somebody said A, which is major. Another person said B. Another person said A. Let me scroll down. And yeah, somebody said A, B, minor B, B. Oh, this person just wrote company hasn't backed up his file. Yeah.
Okay, so the right question for number two is B, actually, is a minor non-conformity, because there's no, we're not looking at, they said, okay, they've not gone through information security training. So we cannot base it. Remember, if you're raising your finding, it has to be based on a criteria. It has to be based on the policy. The standard says they should have regular security training, but the standard doesn't say how often. So it depends on the organization. Although they've not done it in 6 months, they could say, okay, maybe in the next year. So minor non-conformity is fine. So B is correct. Now let's do the third one.
Okay, let me see. Let me see what. Okay, 3, I think, is A. Okay, 3 is A. I'm seeing A. Okay, there's 1 C. Okay, it's A, and then there's just one C.
Okay, with this one, the answer is actually C. So whoever receives correct.
Let us give that person a clap. It's Victor.
Okay.
It's only Victor. Okay, so C just coming in now, but Victor is the only one that got, since all the answer, Victor got the C.
Yes. So remember, you're looking at the HR process. So this is internal auditor. You're asking the HR person if she has a documented procedure for the work she's doing. That's why you need to know your standard in and out, the 27,001. This 27,001 standard does not say that HR should have a documented procedure, except if the organization says so. So that is an observation.
Yeah, hello?
Hello, who is that?
Hello? Yes, please.
Yeah, I just kind of want to contradict the answer to question number 2.
Yes.
For most of the financial organizations,
Yes.
when they are doing their onboarding,
Yes.
there's this series of training and awareness that they used to give to their new incomers,
Yes.
which requires all the security issues that we are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, firstly, what they used to do is to roll out all these security things to them.
Yes.
I mean, to do it. So we don't have to wait for about 6 months
Yes.
before employees have to go through information security trainings.
Yes.
Because a lot can be happened between that period of time.
Yes.
So I believe it's a kind of major things.
Yes.
I don't know if you understand what I'm talking
I
about.
understand what you're saying. Remember, this is based on your judgment. So for me personally, I would not raise that as a major non-conformity. I would raise it as a minor non-conformity. So they've gone through, the standard says the standard does not talk about new employees going through information security training. The standard says information security training should be rolled out to everyone. They should be aware of information security policy. So it's possible that they're aware of all the policies. However, they've not had the training. So if they've shared the training with them, if they shared policies and procedures with them, they're aware of that. So the fact that they've not sat down to complete their awareness training is not a major, it is a minor non-conformity. Again, it just depends on where you're coming from. But for me personally, I would raise that as a minor, but I'll be basing it on my audit criteria and the documentation that has been presented to me by the organization.
Because what the question says here, it says the new employees have not gone through information security training.
Yes.
New employees, that is where I'm coming from.
So the question is, they've not gone through information security training. Awareness is only done 6 months, but should be done regularly. Is a minor non-conformity, not a major non-conformity. Remember, the security training is not a clause. Usually you would raise the major non-conformity against the clauses. So this is a minor non-conformity. Again, you need to go back, if you're familiar with 27,000, if you have the standard, you can go to the standard and read up on the controls or an awareness of information security, or how to push information security training to the persons in the organization. I personally would not raise it as a major, I would raise it as a minor non-conformity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So Harry, yes?
Yeah, I think we should move. We'll move on.
Okay.
I think it's the same question we're having.
All right. So I've put 2 opportunities here for those of you that might be interested to go carry on or view the career in security, information security. So what I mentioned earlier, I said you might find jobs that says information security auditor or lead auditor, or more often than not, you would always find the role of an auditor within information security analyst roles or manager roles. So if you look at this one here, the first line there is talking about maintaining certification in our UK office, but also to assist with the ISMS across our global offices. So this one, straight away, you would know that you'll be saddled with that responsibility of internal audit. Then the second one here says information security officer. So if I look at this line here, it says maintain in-depth knowledge of all relevant security standard, including 27001 and so on and so forth. So if they're saying you would maintain that, chances are that internal audit might be one of your responsibilities. The first one here, the first responsibility here says to respond to internal and external questions and queries in relation to the firm's foundation, security control, and governance framework. So that will be coming from second-party audit. Second-party audit, so they want to understand your security posture. So you as the main person, security officer, would be responsible for that as well. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. If you are interested in auditing or further training, please contact Smart Learning. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for engaging as well. Thank you for, all of you are good students. Thank you very much. I'll pass it now to Wale for further information.
All right. Thank you, Obi. Thank you so much for, that was quite a great presentation, very engaging. You know, you took this from the practical viewpoint, and I'm sure that anybody that has interview, which is ISO related, audit or external, you have done a lot of brain dumps for them. The good thing is we're going to take this video and we're going to put it on the website. So, you know, guys, don't bother to call me if you have interview. Just go and listen to this video because it's really practical. And you have listened to someone that who is not only certified to 27001 board implementer and auditor, but who is also a practitioner. And you would agree with me that, you know, everything that Obi has been sharing with us, we're just more from practical viewpoint. And this is what we do very well in Smart Learning. You know, here, this is free, but you would have gone somewhere else, you know, to pay a lot of money for this. You know, Obi is great to have you, and thank you for, you know, sharing your knowledge with us. When we called you, yeah, you could have just said no, that, you know, but, you know, you came here and you gave it your all. So thank you so much for that. So what would happen is, for some of you that might be interested in ISO, you know, I mentioned something when we started that we had we had the 27001 Foundation, which was a free training as well. We have that video somewhere. We had the 3 days. Some of you might just be interested that you wanted to go back to that video. If that is you, you know how to reach us. We will be more than happy we'll be more than happy. We're going to be coming to all of those questions. There's a whole of dump of information there. We'll be more than happy to support you as much as possible if you want to go back to that foundation course to just listen to that video. What we'll do is we'll take that video, we'll put it on the website as well, whereby, you know, you could go listen to it as at when you want. And we're going to do exactly the same for this one as well. So what are we offering here? Obi, if you can, I don't know if I can, oops. All right, so these are the, some of you are new to our platform. Maybe others, you know what we do anyway. But this is more for the newbies that are just joining our platform for the first time. And maybe for some of you that have also been part of our platform as well, that, you know, you're not aware of some of the new courses that we have. Maybe some of this might tickle your fancy, or you might just like them and you want to inquire more. So we have quite a number of, you know, cybersecurity related courses. You can see there we have the cyber security, and the cloud security bundle. So what that simply means is, you could, the bundle, you could, select up to 6 courses from this bundle and just pay a price of 1. So we have, cybersecurity related courses. You can see that there, fundamentals to risk management, to threat hunting, to governance, risk and compliance. We have other regulatory compliance courses. We have GDPR. We even have the Nigerian data protection regulation as well. So for those that are keen, and maybe you're based in Nigeria and you've been hearing about the new regulation and you want to upskill in that area, please, by all means, you could also reach us as well. Then we have cloud related courses. There are new courses that we've got there. We've got the cloud governance. So some of you must have been hearing about. So a lot of you know about. Governance, risk and compliance. We also have the cloud governance now. So if you're interested and you want to learn more, please, by all means, you know how to reach us. Then we have the SIM design and implementation. These are for the techie people. We have the system and the so we have the system and the network security. We have SIM design. We have now Google Cloud architecture as well. So if you want to learn that, we also have the Azure's cloud architecture as well. So if you're keen on learning all of those, these are all new courses. We have what we call the Red Teaming Extension. So if you're, technical and or if you want to go technical, these are all the courses that might work for you. SIM design, network, and system and network security. But if you're non-technical and you're still wondering, oh, well, Wally, where do I fit in? We have quite a number of them. Then we have the cloud governance. Anybody could do that if you're non-technical, especially if you're coming from the business administration or the project management background. You can do that. One of the best courses that I would also recommend for you would be would be governance, risk and compliance, as I have it here. You could also do with the cybersecurity risk management. So again, I mentioned something earlier on that we are end-to-end. We provide a lot support for our students. So basically, when you train with us, you also get the opportunity to be in a practical environment where you can put some of these things into practice, and it will no longer become theoretical anymore, but rather it would be practical for you. And like I said, that we provide end-to-end support for our students. And you can also see some certification courses as well. We have some of them. We have quite a number of, but I just have to list some of them that maybe some of you might be familiar with. We have the Certified Information Security Manager. Some people will call it CISM. We have the CISA. We have the Certified in Risk Information System Control. We have the Certified Cloud Security Professional. Then we have also Certified Information Security Professional as well, CCISP, and we have the family of ISO, if you're interested in that one. Not just only the 27001 lead implementer and lead auditor, we also have the quality management as well, which is the ISO 9001. So we have range of certification courses that you can do. All right, and then it takes me to the next slide. The next slide is where we talk about the candidate's journey. And candidate's journey is what we do as a business, to support you. People are wired up different way, so we spend quality time over the phone to you to understand who you are and how you're wired up. And we call that personality traits. I use this very funny example that some people they're inquisitive by nature. And if that is you, that is how you're wired up. So that, in a bad way, they will say you are nosy. You like to, put your nose everywhere, and you could use that to your advantage. You will pass, you would do, perfectly, the job of an auditor, just like Obi has just explained to us. He was talking about personality trait earlier on, for an auditor. So if you're the type that you're nosy, sorry, I used that word, then, the job of an auditor, you would just do it. It's your natural habitat, among other things that you would learn, on the ISO 27001 training. So the place of personality trait, is very, very important. And that's what we also do very well as well. We spend quality time with you to understand who you are and how you are wired up in the inside, and would annex that, help you to annex that for, the courses that you want to, or that you might choose in the long run. We also have what we call the pre-course training. The pre-course training is where we spend quality time. So earlier on, I was talking about all the courses that we have. Obi, if you go back to the slide before now, I was talking to you about all the courses that we have. And you see, some of these courses are technical. In fact, quite a number of them are non-technical. But you see, the misconception that is out there is some people think that until they are technical, that's when they can earn more money. That is absolutely not right. Do you know you can be non-technical and you can even earn much more than those that are technical? You see, the logic is, the non-technical people, the way employers see them is they are closer to the business than technical people. A lot of people that if you're just, all you know how to do is just configure firewall, you see, chances are you might not know, or you might not understand how business operate. But you can see so Obi is non-technical and it's taking us through this ISO the certification process. But you see, because she has a lot of exposure, to businesses, to a lot of business, the good thing about it is Obi, over the period that she has been doing this, she has learned a lot of good practices. Guess what? Because she's closer to businesses than a firewall person, that all he does is just configure firewall. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying being a firewall person is not good. I'm just saying you can have a balance. All right. You can have a balance of being non-technical and also technical. That is the wisdom, that I'm sharing with you. So for me, in the early days of my career, all I just need is just to run cable, configure firewalls and all of that. But as I move on in my career, I realized that the place of learning the governance, the risk and the compliance, it becomes more important as well. Because if you don't understand it, guess what? You might just all be tied up in your own little word. And what is that little word? It's all about technical things. All right. So it is both rewarding. So whether it's all technical for you or non-technical for you, both sides are quite rewarding. But see, the wisdom there is if you learn both, then the better for you. So some of the courses that we have here, quite a number of them not technical, and that is where the personality trait assessment, the pre-course also comes in as well, where we'll spend quality time explaining these courses to you in a way that you will understand it. So I can tell you that, Mr. A, because of your background, maybe you have to combine 2 technical courses to 2 other non-technical courses. And when you have that good combination, you will stand a better chance. So for example, I could say, ISO 27001 is good. Okay, learn a bit of vulnerability management and penetration testing as well. Great combination. So when you combine those together, you even stand a better chance. You see, truth be told, in the industry, the people that want to employ you, all right, they want you to have knowledge of so many things. And that's what, that's who a consultant is. So you must understand the ISO, but you also must understand enough what penetration testing is and vulnerability management. Because when you see some of this job, they would have so many domains within it. All right. So you have to learn a bit of so many things. So that is what we do, and if I take you back again. So I mentioned earlier on, I'd talked about these courses and I said course bundle. All right. So we want to give you the chance that you can select among this up to 6 courses. You can select up to 6 courses. You can have a mix of 3 non-technical and another 3 technical. And when you do that, guess what? You stand a better chance of getting job. So you could come here and say, I want to learn fundamentals of cybersecurity. I want to, add it to cloud. I want to add it to cybersecurity risk management. I also want to learn a bit of, threat hunting as well. I want to learn governance, risk, and compliance. And I want to add it to vulnerability management and penetration testing. You could get that. As a matter of fact, you could say, no, I want to have a mix of all the cybersecurity courses and some of the cloud security and cloud courses as well. You can have, like I said, up to 6, for a price of 1. I'm going to come back to those prices in a little while. Then, if you move forward, Then, we take you through that pre-course, explaining what the courses is and how you can combine them. Then obviously we do something we call candidate onboarding. So if you decide that this course is for you, then we'll onboard you onto our platform. Onboarding just simply means we'll give you access, to our training platform, all up to our materials and everywhere, all the places that you can engage with us. We use, among all the things that we use the WhatsApp a lot, to collaborate, but we also have a Google platform where we upload all of our materials. Then obviously, the stage number 4 there is where we do the training for you. Our training is live. You see, what you have experienced today is exactly, it depicts, what our training looks like. With our training, live training, you're not watching a pre-recorded, video, but a live training where, you could ask questions. So earlier on, somebody called Joseph Awelawa, was asking questions around, what he has experienced at work, and what the course is all about. And this is part of the engagement as well, where you can talk back, to your tutor and they can respond as much as they can to you. So it's quite engaging, and that's the beauty. Obi, if you go to the next slide. And we also have what we call the work experience part of it as well. This is the beauty of our training. All right. So we're not just only a training organization, we're also a consulting firm as well. Some of our students are here today and they can attest to the fact that, so whilst we train them, we also give them the opportunity to practicalize what they have learned. And how did they practicalize it? We put them into a project. The project could be a simulated one. Others, another time, it could also be a live project as well, depending on what is happening, per time, what we're doing at part-time. But we have quite a number of live projects going on at the moment, and our student has had the privilege, to enroll on some of those live projects. Then we do what we call the mentoring and the CV review as well. These are some of the things that you also get, as part of the benefit, of training with us. Then we do the mock interview for you. So these are all stages, all right, in our training. And we said something earlier on, is until you secure a job. Then lastly, we hope that your time with us, you'll be able to secure a job. So it's an end-to-end training for us. It does not stop, all right, with just training you as we have done today. It goes on as far as the work experience, through a project, through project base, the CV and the mentoring, the mock interviews if you secure an interview, and also you securing it. So for example, so imagine if you secure an interview for a possible ISO 27001 audit role, then Hobby is also one of our mentors as well. So it would just be a case of getting Hobby on the other side of the phone to you, where he can mentor you and also help you. So she will practically do what? Do a brain dump, for you. And you can literally just, take our own brain and go and use it at that interview. And chances are you will be successful. All right. So let's move on to the next slide. All right. So this is becoming interesting. So, so whilst I have you here, the next thing for you, and for all of everyone that has joined, again, this is absolutely free. All right. Would be this course. We have called it, ISO 27017 Cloud Security Fundamentals. All right. The date is the 12th, 06/2020. It's going to be a 2-day training, up to 3 days. Let me just quickly, let you know. It's going to be up to 3 days training. It's going to be, we're going to take the similar approach to what we did when we had the 27001 foundation, free training. So it's going to be online as well. So watch this space. We're going to be sending you information to let you know when, just as you have registered for this course, you would also have to register for this free training as well. What you will get at the back of it is going to be a certificate of participation on completion. I know some of you have emailed me and they have said, oh, I haven't received my certificate of participation. I think we had a lot of challenge with the way, and please, if you're here and you're going to come for this training, so let me quickly just say this ahead. A lot of us, we use acronyms, we use AKAs for our names. And for me and with my team, it's a lot of administrative work. So say, for example, somebody's name is Babatunde, and when they register, they will say Babs, all right? And I get it, Babs is what your friend calls you, but that's not your real name, all right? Because certificate is supposed to carry your real name. And the problem is, so we generate a certificate, or we create a certificate, and we send it to them as Babs, blah, blah, blah. And they come back and say, oh, my name is not Babs, my name is Babatunde. So you can see that, it's a lot of administrative work for us. I mean, this is free, so you need to help me so that I can help you. All right, you need to help me so when you're registering, because we're going to send an email to you, everyone that registered, when you're registering for this one, which is the Cloud Security Fundamentals, is a 3-day training. All right, when you're registering, please, I beg you, I want you to use your real name. It makes life easy. So someone is Shino, so it should be Shino Akinola, or if you're Olushino, it should be Olushino. So because you may want to present the certificate at work or somewhere, or you're going for an interview, or you've been offered that job and you want to present the certificate. So by the time your name is Babatunde on your travel document, and we have called it Babs, then it becomes a lot of work. And you sending it back to us to change it, you would agree with me. Listen, it's free of charge, and we want to reduce the overhead as much as possible. All right, so I do apologize maybe for a few people that haven't received their certificate, maybe 1 or 2 or 3, among a lot, okay? We had about over 162 people in that training, even much more than that, so you can imagine, having to write certificate for everybody. All right, so please, again, I beg you that, you do the needful when that registration comes for this particular one, so that, we avoid all of the, challenges that we had earlier. All right, so thank you for this. So if you're interested, Tola is going to send you an email. Tola, just please, for those that have registered, an email will come to you shortly. Please check your email. Tunde, please make sure that you let Tola know. Check your email, please. And what that email will simply do is we have 2 things there. If you're keen and you wanted to do any of the courses that we have that I just mentioned earlier on, or if you go back slightly a little bit, if you want to do any of those courses with us, keep going back, with us, then please, use the link there. There's a link. Once you click on that link, I think that email has just come through at the net.
Yeah, Wally, all emails sent.
Okay, so if you click on that email, you will get the opportunity to select any of the courses that you're interested in. Guess what? We're giving this almost away for free. The original price for 6 courses is 1,350. But what we're doing, the offer that we have now, is we're doing this almost for free, and we're asking for £450, for you to do 6 courses with us. As a matter of fact, some of these courses, they have close to 11 modules. So if I take, for example, now the Azures has about 14 modules in it, and you're going to be trained for a period of time. All right. So the offer stands. The date is there. I think the date is up until the 5th of June. If you're interested, please, use the form there. Click on that form, select the courses. You cannot select, so the certification courses are not included. That is a different thing entirely. If you're going to do the certification course, then, we have a different package for that, but I'm going to be sharing more information on that one. But the cybersecurity / cloud security bundle, that is where, the discount applies. And like I said, you could select up to 6 courses of your choice, and you can do those courses with us for 450. So that email has been sent. If we do not have your email, if you did not register, all right, so it means that we don't have your email. It'll just be a case of you have to send us an email so that we can reach out to you, all right, and we can, take it from there, all right. So you're saving, so it's about the discount of 66%. That is the offering for years, discount of 66%. All right, you understand, a lot of people are home, and you want to upskill yourself, so that, you can go for that next big job. Obi was sharing with us earlier on, how much you could earn, just learning how ISO alone. You could even get up to, 90-something thousand pounds, per annum. You would agree with me, that's a big money. All right, but you need to upskill. You need to be equipped, with the right knowledge, and that's exactly what we're going to be helping you to achieve, next one. So again, watch this space. The next time we're going to be coming back to you with the email, is going to be the registration link, for the free training that is coming. And please watch that space because again, you know, it's going to be a great time. I'm bringing someone else that's going to be helping us out. Obi, if you take move the slide forward a little bit. Thank you. And yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. All right, stop here. And this is where this is very, very important, you know, for those still under the ISO 27, ISO family. We thought that, you know, we want to get you up there, you know, keep equipping you, you know, with the right information that would help you, you know, to say, hey, now that I am I'm an ISO guru. I hope that would be your story anytime soon. All right. So I would open the floor for questions, but before I open the floor, I will stop the recording, you know, because, you know, we've done well so far, and I'm glad that, you know, all of our backgrounds have been very, very quiet, you know. So hang on a minute. All right. The background has been great, which is wonderful. We've done the recording. So if you're interested and you want to see the video, please give us like up until tomorrow, or worst case scenario on Monday. You know, we would put the video on our website, and there you can go and watch it. All right. On our website. So if you go on our website is www.smartlearning, you know, uk.com. So if you go under resource, you will find the video there. There are other videos as well that could, you know, help you in your, you know, in your journey. All right, there are a lot of, you know, good resource there. But that's where we're going to drop that video from Monday by God's grace. You know, we'll start to work on it today, but, you know, obviously leave it till Monday, you know, and you can go there and go and check it, and it will be there, and you can watch it as at when you like. All right. So again, guys, I want to say thank you. You will receive, if you have received an email from us, then that's great. Email should have come through. I would open the floor in the next few minutes for any questions.
Hello, just
maybe for myself and for Obi, and we'll take it from there. All right.